He exposed Trump's corrupt playbook and named every name. When Senator brought the receipts, Pam Bondi and Trump's inner circle were caught red-handed. The scandal? Pressuring prosecutors to jail enemies and protect friends. The outcome? Public, on-the-record exposure. You're about to witness how deep the rot really goes.
Former Supreme Court Justice Robert Jackson, who later became the chief prosecutor at Nuremberg, gave an address in 1940 when he was Attorney General, and it was titled Federal Prosecutor. He said, while the prosecutor at his best is one of the most beneficent forces in our society, when he acts from malice or other base motives, he is one of the worst. Unfortunately, President Trump, driven by clear malice, ordered the prosecution of James Comey, a prosecution which was rejected by a career Republican prosecutor who had looked at the facts and looked at the evidence for months. In a country devoted to the rule of law, it is simply unconscionable for the president to direct the Justice Department to engage in political prosecutions against the recommendations of a career prosecutor. Maybe you think this is small. Maybe you all know that Comey will win this case, as he said himself, bring it on, go to trial. But to me, it is much deeper than that. Donald Trump posted on social media, and the whole world saw his instructions to the Attorney General to go after his perceived political enemies, including the former director of the FBI, who, by the way, was a Republican-appointed U.S. attorney, served a number of positions under Republicans, was my law school classmate, so I know a little bit about his politics. He ordered the Justice Department to go after the sitting Attorney General in the state of New York, and he even ordered the entire Justice Department to go after a member of this committee. And if that is not chilling to my colleagues and they don't care about this, I don't even know what to say anymore. Pam Bondi came before this committee, and I asked her questions about this, and she said to me, and these are her words, politics will not play a part in our decisions. Here you go. So when Donald Trump couldn't find someone in the Justice Department to bring the charges against Comey, he pushed out Eric Siebert, a conservative Republican, by Mark Warner's account, a prosecutor that was recommended by the Republican governor of the state of Virginia, and he installed a White House aide to overrule the career prosecutors. He is pressuring the Justice Department about whom to prosecute rather than letting the career prosecutor make a decision about the facts and the laws. That's not justice. As former Trump White House attorney Ty Cobb said, we have a president for the first time in history ordering his AG to indict his enemies. And the AG, instead of being the independent force she's supposed to be, is saying, yes, sir. How can I get that done? Andrew McCarthy, a former federal prosecutor and conservative commentator, also said that this was a vindictive indictment, incomprehensible, and a mess. You know, I was a prosecutor for 8 years, ran a sizable office, and people would call, hey, don't go after that kid. Oftentimes a kid would be like 35 years old. And not once did I ever go to the career prosecutor and say, get rid of that case, don't do that, oh, have less of a sentence. Because when you cross that line, because you have had that kind of political pressure put on you, you can't go back. You can't go back. You took an oath to represent the government, the people, whether it's a state, whether it is the country, and not to represent, in this case, the president. And this is not happening in a vacuum. At the same time, the president directs investigations and prosecutions of his perceived enemies. He gives pardons to and rewards his friends. The administration reportedly shut down an investigation into border czar Tom Homan for accepting a $50,000 cash bribe. The president pardoned January 6 insurrectionists who assaulted police officers in this very building. And he pressured prosecutors to dismiss a corruption case against Eric Adams. It was Hayden Scotton who was the career prosecutor in that case, someone who had clerked for Justice Roberts and then Judge Kavanaugh. And he said this when he was asked to do the dirty work. He wouldn't do the corrupt work. He said, "You will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion, but it was never going to be me." That's what this is about. And all of us elected by our states have to look in our own conscience and think, is this going to be me? Am I going to go along with this? Or am I going to say something about it?
What you just witnessed is not just a hearing, it's a revelation. A sitting U.S. senator stood before the nation and laid out in brutal detail a pattern of political corruption that cuts to the bone of our justice system. This wasn't speculation. This was evidence. This was a warning. And this was a line drawn in the sand. We watched as the senator exposed how Donald Trump personally directed the Department of Justice to go after his political enemies. James Comey, Letitia James, even a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. And when career Republican prosecutors refused to do his dirty work, he fired them. He replaced them with loyalists, people willing to twist the law to fit a vendetta. And what did Attorney General Pam Bondi do? She didn't push back. She didn't protect the independence of the DOJ. She obeyed. She executed the president's orders like a foot soldier, not a servant of the law. The same Pam Bondi who once testified, "Politics will not play a part in our decisions." That testimony aged like a subpoena, ignored. Let's be clear, this is not normal. This is not justice, and this is not democracy. We heard about the firing of Eric Siebert, a respected conservative prosecutor, because he refused to charge James Comey without evidence. We heard about Hayden Scotton, another career prosecutor, pressured to dismiss a corruption case against Eric Adams, only to say, "It will never be me." That's bravery, that's integrity. That's what every American expects from those sworn to uphold the law. But under Trump, the rules were rewritten. Enemies got indicted, friends got pardoned, insurrectionists who beat police officers were celebrated, bribe takers were protected. This wasn't just a pattern, this was a blueprint for authoritarian power, weaponizing justice, rewarding silence, punishing dissent. And the question we're left with is chilling. How many people complied? How many prosecutors said yes? How many cases were buried because someone feared the cost of telling the truth? This moment is bigger than Comey, bigger than Bondi, bigger than one president. This is about whether the Department of Justice serves the law or the man in power. This is about whether America has one system of justice or two. And here's what makes it worse. The silence from those who should be speaking. Too many elected officials are looking the other way. Too many are pretending not to see what's happening, but history will remember who spoke up and who stayed silent. Institutions don't collapse all at once. They rot from the inside. And right now, the rot is showing. So ask yourself, will you accept a justice system that runs on revenge? Will you allow prosecutors to be fired for doing their jobs? Or will you demand accountability before it's too late? No one is above the Constitution, not a president, not an AG, not a political party. Share this video if you believe justice must be independent. Subscribe to hold the powerful accountable. Comment below, should Pam Bondi be investigated for political interference? Because if we don't call this out now, we may not get another chance.